Is the camera working? All right, here we go again. It's time for You Can't Do That on Salesforce, dude. That's the theme song. Been working on that all week. Hope you guys like it. Where were we? We're still building Monopoly. Our last episode, which was not last week because I went to the Midwest Dreamin' show, which was super cool. Had a good time. Got a lot of great ideas for some other stuff to build on the show here. But we're gonna do Monopoly for a couple more episodes. Make sure the horse isn't beaten dead yet. I'm still excited to get this thing made and working, and see if we can actually, I don't know if we can quite play around today, but we'll see what we can do. Where were we? Let's see. I got so many screens here to get out of the way. All right, picking up where we left off. Let's recap. Thanks everybody for coming today. Check the stream, get the chat up. Make sure we can talk to y'all if you're out there in internet land. Let's see here. Manage this chat. Where are you? There you are. We're live. Stream manager. Here we go. Nobody's here yet. That's okay. We'll get some people in here, I'm sure. All right. Picking up where we left off. We were talking about turns. Taking turns in Monopoly or Forceopoly last week. And we got this big flow called Take Turn, which is doing a lot of the work for us here. So let's see what we got so far. Got my phone going off over here. All right. I think we're ready to actually talk about some stuff. So let's see what we got going on here. Here's our flow. This is our take turn flow. And what do we got going on so far? Well, we've got a turn object that lets our system know whose turn it is. So we're loading that in. We're getting the related player based on that turn, so we know who's actually playing at that point. And we've got a screen here that, not terribly exciting, just tells us it's time to roll. We're using our Apex flow our Apex invocable to give us a random number so we can roll the dice. We roll 2 dice, so we're making that call twice, and we get the results of both of those. Do a little bit of formula math to figure out the total and also decide if we're rolling a double. So at this point, we've got our player has rolled and are ready to move their pieces. So we let them know what just happened. You rolled a something, hey, you rolled a double, or hey, you're going to jail. So those are the 3 things that can happen when you first roll the dice on your turn. It's useful to know if you rolled a double because that means you get to roll again. If you roll too many doubles, 3 in a row, you go to jail. And we have a little bit of logic beneath the surface that lets us know if we're going to jail or not. And I think that was in the previous step in some of the roll results. Actually, no, that's just a formula. So if I take a look over here, we have a going to jail formula that lets us know, did you roll a double, and did you roll a double in your previous turn, and did you roll a double in the turn before that? And we string all of our turns together, both the game, so each turn a person takes, they know about the previous turn, which may or may not be helpful. We haven't found a need for that yet. But we also know the player's previous turn, which is definitely helpful for things like this double logic. So got that going in there. All right, let's move on. So now we get into different phases of the turn. So this first state is determining what's gonna happen from here. I need to react to the position that the player needs to move to on the board. So if it's my first turn, I'm at go, so I can kind of do easy mode math and say start from position 0, which is how we start with 0 on the positions, and then move forward however many steps you rolled. If it's not your first turn, then we've got to figure out where you are, which we can determine from your previous turn, and then have you go forward that many steps. If you roll the double, then your position is going to be jail. You're going to jail. And that whole are you in jail state goes through several phases of of the process here. Give me 1 second, off to the side here. All right, taking care of business over here. All right, so we made our determination of what to do, where to move, or how to move. That's kind of the first phase of the roll. Then we've got to determine where did you land. So based on the position that you landed on, we're gonna go figure out the game position. I'm gonna do one thing to the camera here because it keeps doing like a weird focus thing. So hang on 1 second. Well, let's see what you're up to, camera. It's like focusing in a really weird part of the screen here. Let's see if we can fix that. Like it doesn't want to focus on my face. Let's see if that worked. I know I've got to keep the face in focus. Maybe that helped. I don't know. Let's see. Whoa. Ew. There we go. Try that. Okay, where were we? So we got to load the position that the player is, or the property that the player landed on. And when we land on that position, we got to make some decisions, which we did none of yet. So we know that's a phase that we have to run, but we haven't made any decisions there. And that's okay. So we landed, and we're going to come back to, we got to figure out cards like community chess and chance. Did we land on jail? And if we did go to jail, then we're gonna go to jail. Or if we didn't land on anything, I would say a not interesting spot, which isn't, it's not that it's not interesting, but we're going to manage the landing on property as our next step. And property would be anything that we can buy or we might have to pay rent on. So I think we'll be paying rent today in our game. Hopefully we'll have that logic built out. So then we also have to determine, did we pass go or not? Right? That's some logic that I rolled, and if I'm going from whatever boardwalk to Mediterranean Avenue, I get money. So we test that to determine if we passed go. And so the logic for there's two we're doing a little house rules here. So I've played in some games where if you land directly on go, then you get double the money. You get $400 instead of $200. So we've got that in the game here as one condition. I landed directly on go. That means my position is 0, which is what we determined up above. If I passed go, then I want to look and see, is the position that I'm currently on less than the position that I previously came from? Because by definition, we cross 0 when we pass go. And in doing so, our previous position, 38 or 39, moved to 4 or 5. My new position is less. That means I pass go. So that's what this logic is doing here. There's a default outcome, but I don't think we actually ever hit that. So we're kind of testing for go. Now we're going to evaluate the outcomes as they relate to jail. Do I need to go to jail? We did property with no owner last week, and property with no owner has been kind of auto magical right now. So our decision point for that is here. So the game property that we pull when we determine where did the person land has an owner field. That field is blank if nobody's in possession, nobody has bought that property. So we're going to do a null check on that to see if anybody owns it. And if they don't own it, we'll let them know that, hey, the property is not owned. We got some merge fields here that we haven't done anything with, so we'll fix that. The property's not owned by anybody. Do you want to buy it for some kind of money? That we know from the game property what its value is, and we have to go up for auction if we don't sell it. Haven't done any auction logic yet. That's another requirement that we have to figure out. Do you want to buy it or not? Yes or no? And based on that, we'll take you down the yes or the no path. The no path is the auction path, and we haven't done that yet. But if we do decide to buy it, okay, we're going to assign the owner to the current player. We're going to take some money from the current player. That amount is the property's cost. We are not doing a test yet for do we have enough money to buy it. So that's something that we probably have to put in our step up above to say, I can't show you that yes/no thing if you don't have enough money to buy the property. So we'll work on that logic. And then we have this outcome field that still working on trying to figure out how that's going to work. But I think there's like a finite number of outcomes that occur on a turn, and we cataloged some of those last week. I think the outcome here is buy property. So that's what we're going to put in there. This is, again, the turn is sort of like audit logic, audit rules, and or not audit rules, an audit trail for the game. So we want to have some kind of description in there, like what happened in that turn, and maybe we'll track some of the transaction details and things like that as far as the money goes. But for right now, we're just buying property. Okay, then we sort of have cleanup time here at the end. There's a ton more stuff we need to do in a turn up above, but for right now, the happiest path is I land on property, nobody owns it, I have enough money to buy it, I bought it, and now I'm done with my turn. So each turn has a checkbox that says, is this the current turn in the game? Because our game's probably not going to run in real time. Our people are not going to log into Salesforce and want to watch a Monopoly game all at once. Maybe they will. We'll build some UI for that maybe someday later. But what we want to do is say, this turn is over, therefore I'm unchecking this current turn, and then I want to update the turn with that change. So say like we're done with this turn. We're officially we're there's nothing left to do. What there is left to do is to decide what we need to do next. Did we roll a double? If we rolled a double, we already went to jail up above, so we're not reevaluating the jail logic here. We're just saying, did you roll a double before? And if so, you get to go again. So we're going to create a new turn for the current player associated with the game. Indicate that it's the current turn. Check the next box, right? Who's the player? What was their previous turn, the player's previous turn? Because if you and me are playing, I've got my previous turns in sequence, and then the whole game has its previous turns in sequence. So we're filling both of these fields with the turn that that basically kicked off this whole thing. So we've got some history there. That's cool. We're going to use that for deciding doubles and things like that in the next round. If I go down the double path, I insert the current player's turn, and then I update to that current turn. So we're just marking that here. Next path, I didn't roll a double. It's the next player's turn. So we go and determine what we haven't done yet. We know what game this belongs to. We know that we're marking this as the current turn, and we know what the previous turn is, but we don't know who the next player should be. So we've got to go figure that out. We talked a little bit about the sequence of play, but I don't think we have enough for us to tell us who the next player is. So we'll come back to that. I keep saying we'll come back to that because I keep finding requirements that are like, we need a way to do that. And, lo and behold, this simple, stupid game of Monopoly sure is a little complicated once you get below the surface. But that's okay. This is fun. We are going to figure this out. A little bit of redundancy between the two conditions here. I'm doing the same thing in both paths. This is generally I shouldn't do this. I should have a step up above that consolidates to initialize the next turn and then build the conditions below. So that's a little bit of housekeeping and hygiene that we can maybe deal with later. But that would end our turn, and then once we figure out who our next player is, we'll know, we'll put that in a list view or whatever, or send a notification once the checkbox is checked and say, hey, Joe, Susie finished her turn and it's your turn in Monopoly. Click here and go do your thing. So if I shrink this all down, it's always kind of interesting to see what does the flow look like at the grand scheme of things. So you can kind of see like the phases that form here. We've got the, how did you roll? What did you land on? I forget that step and I can't read it. How to deal with property, and then how to clean up and go into the next turn. So this thing's going to get bigger. I sense some subflows should probably happen at some point because this is getting a little bit of an eye chart, but we'll keep rolling with it. So let's go take a look at I feel like I was writing some requirements here. Yep. All right. How did we do here so far? We bought property if it wasn't owned. Done. Have we paid rent if it is owned? Nope, we haven't done that yet. Have we gone to jail? Kind of. I think we need to review the logic of that and make sure that it actually would happen. Draw a card. We're not doing that one yet. We are missing the whole card data model. We need to do some work there, but I'm going to deprioritize that because I'm lazy, I guess. We get paid. Well, we got paid. Let's break this up. We got paid on Go. We got paid on Pass Go. Well, let's get paid on Land Go, and then get paid on Pass Go. And then we got to get paid on free parking. We didn't do that one yet. We did this. We landed on Go. We passed Go. We haven't done free parking yet. Let's go back and check Go to Jail. Let's make sure our logic makes sense here. Check our flow. Setup. Turn state. Going to jail. Let's review our going to jail formula. Right. So I rolled a double on this turn and the previous turn and the previous turn. If those three are true, I'm going to jail. So that formula should hold up. So I set my position to 10. This is hard coded. We probably should do this a little bit more nicely, but for now we set our position to 10. And what else do we need to do to say we go to jail? So we're going to load jail because I've got the position here. So if I'm running through that condition through the flow, I'll back up one step. I rolled a double 3 times. I set my position to jail. We load the jail position because we'll just load the position. That's what we do. So we landed on it. Now, landing on it here means we rolled a double. But let's flip back over to, all right, you landed on 30, position 30. Let's check that. Positions. Oh, no, properties. Let's look at our properties. I want to find out what position the jail property is on. So jail is 10. Go to jail. Yeah, go to jail is 30. So I need to check here. Go to jail. So I can do this a couple ways, right? This is the more elegant way to do this because we have a record type on our properties called go to jail. And we're checking the game properties, related properties, record type. There's definitely some pathing mojo that's happening here to see if it is the go to jail type. And make sure we got that. Yep, record type.name equals go to jail. So if that's the case, so we've got all the logic to capture, did I just land on go to jail? Now I have to actually set a different game property. I don't want to set the game property to, I don't really want to set the game property here, but that's a good catch-all for everything else. And so maybe we need to adjust some logic here. So when we land in our land phase, well, if I rolled my double, then I set my position, I loaded the position, and then I'm going to set the property on the turn. What I think I should do here is probably I think we actually want to store the property more dynamically, because I actually want to take whatever value I caught here, and I want it to be a different property here. I want this to be jail, so that when we come here and find the game property from load game property by position, I've still got the same value, so I can run down the same logic path. So how should we do that? I think we want to, let's see, load game property by position just loads in and then automatically stores the values. Let's see if we, I don't really want to choose fields. I want to choose fields and assign them out. And what do I need from the property itself? Well, it doesn't matter. We can just create, let's do this. So let's create a new variable, and we'll call this the property record. We'll make this. Hang on a second. Is this a game? I think we're actually loading the game property. So we want to. Yeah, we're going to make that a game property variable. All right. So we'll call this game property record. The data type is record. The object is game property. All right, cool. So what this is going to let us do is, now instead of just relying on the results of the load function, we're going to this doggone no good fuzzy picture screen thing. We're going to store that that property result. Unfortunately, we do have to pick the fields that we need here, and unfortunately, we can't step through. We can't step through the relationships. So I don't really love doing this way. So I think I'm going to not do that this way. Come back in here. So we're only going to store the first record. We may just have to do another query and put some logic around it. So let's get rid of that variable that I just created because we don't want noise in our flow. And come back over here. All right. Trying to square away going to jail. So if I land here, I really want to do this. But it needs to be a different property. So I think we're going to have to add another condition. Well, you know what? We can... I really don't want to do this in triplicate. So I think we're going to add a... let's add another phase here, and we'll call this land on go to jail phase. Yes means we did land on it. And then we'll actually take this condition out of what's above because we need to do this requery thing. So what is my logic? The game property, the properties record types name, like that pathing, is go to jail. Okay. So, and then we're going to move this here. Get rid of this guy. Okay. Let's take, now, if I'm going to take go to jail out of this land phase, which would leave me with community chest, chance, let's replace this go to jail with free parking, I think, because that's, thinking about this land phase is like, what might you have to do next, right? So I don't know if maybe let's not throw free parking into the mix just yet. What I want to do is land and say, do you have a community chest or a chance? Because that might make you move again and would actually cause the same condition here. So as I'm talking this through, maybe it does make sense for us to, well, I'm not going to go too far down that path yet. Let's see if we can get jail working. We may have to have a similar pattern for community chest and chance because it could prompt another move. So in essence, go to jail is prompting me to make another move. So when I rolled, I landed up on position 30. I'm not rolling again. I'm just being told to go somewhere. The same thing, the same pattern could happen with a community chest or a chance card. So that's really what land phase is. Maybe it's kind of like second move phase might be the better term for it. But we'll go with what we got here. So I'm going to take out go to jail from as an outcome option here. So now we've only got community chest, chance, and everything else. Now with everything else, I want to now evaluate, am I going to jail because I landed on it? And if the answer is yes, I have to query out the the jail the jail game property, and then set that game property on the turn. I wanted this to be a little bit easier. There's probably an easier way that doesn't involve me thinking about it on the fly, but will be a little bit redundant here. There's no doubt a way to clean this up. There's a certain number of fields that we actually need on the game property that we could probably query out specifically, but this will be a little bit. There's an extra query in here. So let's load. You know what? I almost feel like I should just load jail. Doesn't that make sense? Because we need it up above, I think. We want to know the position. We want to know the position of jail anyway. So in our setup data up here, it feels like we should load. We're probably going to need to load some of those special positions. Maybe just jail. Let's do that. Let's load it up here. Taking the hit up front with preparing my data, but I won't need to requery down below, and it'll make the flow a little less messy. We won't always need this, but we've got it if we need it. So let's load jail game property. So we're going to load that game property, and its property. No, okay. So I'm gonna do this literally and say we're property position equals 10. I wish that someday we'll be able to traverse the fields in related records in the flow, or I'm sorry, in the query conditions, but we can't. We do have property position as a formula up from property. I feel like we need probably need a little data diagram on what this whole thing is starting to look like. So maybe we'll build something. We'll rough something in for that maybe today too. But for now, I'm just going to query this out and say I know that the property position of jail is 10. So we'll get that, and now we've got that value. So now I can come down here and maybe make this a little bit more dynamic and say, I'm testing is my I need to set my position in this step. I'm going to update this and make this property position here equal to jail because we loaded it, so we have a more definitive value. And let's see, land phase, we're going to go down here. So we're going to set the game property to wherever we landed if we didn't land on jail. If we did land on jail, then we're going to set game property on turn to jail. So the turn, load turn, game property equals load jail, .id. Okay, got that covered. So now we should be handling jail correctly. We skip our go conditions because we didn't do anything there, so we're short-circuiting that. Evaluating here, going to jail, that is true, so we're going down that path. We're not taking any action in that path, but we're going down it. And I'm just checking our other conditions here to make sure we're... Now, I haven't actually run this flow yet. I'm honestly not sure if we have the outcome order. I want to say that the outcome order is going to be like a if-else condition situation, right? So it's going to come in and say the first outcome order is, did you roll 3 doubles and are you going to jail? Yes. Goodbye. No. Next one. Did you land on a property that does not have an owner? Yes or no? We need to run and test this. We have not fired up this flow in a little while to see if it's actually doing what it needs to do. So got a little debugging to do here. All right, anyway, we got jail, and we are moving down through here. Even if we go to jail, we got to uncheck the turn, update it, determine whose turn it is next, etc., etc. So I think we have jail covered now. And Yeah, I think we got it. So what's interesting here is like how testable is this, right? Like this is a game of rolling random dice. So how are we actually gonna debug and simulate? I think that's probably gonna call for some subflow if we want to, because I want to be able to unit test, if you will. Hey, I'm going to jail. Here's my turn. Assume I'm going to jail. Run it through and make sure that it actually works. Right now, I've got so many criteria that this is very difficult to test in any consistent way. So, if I were to equate Apex code to flow, your unit test would be your flow if it's at the right scale as a subflow. So it's something that a subflow that takes input and output parameters is going to be a lot more testable in small units that you build upon than one monster flow that is, frankly, this is really difficult to test right now. So we'll get through it. We'll run a few and see how it performs. But okay, I better save this before I lose it. And if I lose it, I will be sad. Let's do a quick. What have I got to draw with out here? Oh, Illustrator. Let's fire up Adobe Illustrator a second. Get a new screen up. Take a break from one diagramming tool to just diagram our data model for those who want to see. I'm talking about properties and game properties and all this other nonsense. Like, what does all that mean? Let's make some sense out of that. All right. Hey, it's Illustrator. I think. Maybe. Illustrator running very slow. All right. I am choking the life out of this laptop with everything that's going on here. Okay, let's draw some pictures. There are way better tools for doing this, but I've got Lucid Chart. And you know what? I don't want to do this with Lucid Chart. Let's do this with or Lucid Chart. This isn't even Lucid Chart. This is Illustrator. Let's not do this with Illustrator. Let me find. I'm just gonna bring up a Google Doc. That'll make life a little easier. We got enough diagramming in a Google Doc to make this not terrible. Let's get a doc up here. Here we go. All right, this is our Forceopoly data model. I was going to try pageless format. Let's do it. Okay. Insert. Let's make ourselves a drawing. Got to have some rounded corners. Okay, so we have something called game property. Make sure I can try to fit all this on here. Game property is an instance of a property. So if we think about properties, they're just like a diction. There's like a catalog of positions that we can land on. Game property is when we actually have a game, it references back to the property that it represents. But we need to do that so that we can have some, it's in game property that we manage some state about the game itself. So that looks a little bit like this. Like everything's centered. Here we go. And we'll put that up there. All right, so game property looks in both directions. It needs to know about the game that it's a part of, and needs to know about the property that it's representing in that game. Then we have a player. Right? Player is part of a game. So the player needs to know about what game it's playing in. And then we also have, so a player is actually a user. So we'll add that to the, we're not doing anything to a user record in this, but we are having the game player relate to a user because we need something to relate to. Ask me what this needs to look like when we build a Salesforce community, and it'll probably need to be a contact object or something else. But so players play games. Players represent users. Games are made up of game properties. Think of this as the board, if you will. The game is kind of like the board. It knows the state of the game, who the next player is, etc. The game property is represents the property, and then we also have a few other things in here, which let's take a look at the data model and see, double check a few things here. Get over to setup. We're going to need to do some work with cards, because we're going to need cards and we're also going to need game cards. It's the same kind of idea. Okay. So our game property has an owner. And that owner is a player record. So let's add that to our model. So that looks up here. I like my lines with elbows. There we go. And let's put some, I forget, can I put words on this? I don't think I can. I think I got to just put words out here somewhere. Come on. All right, so we'll say that this is the owner relationship. Make that a little smaller. Okay. Gotta center it. Gotta have it centered. Okay. So our game property knows about who owns it. I think I'm gonna sneeze. I'm gonna sneeze. Oh yeah. Okay. We have a turn object that it represents, hey, whose turn is it and whose turns has it been and what happened during those turns. So that has a relationship between the game property, which I need to remember why we have that relationship, and the player. So let's put that on our data model. So the turn. So we're going to point that at the player. We also need to point it at the, where do I want to put this? Let's see. I'm going to move everything down a little bit. Let's move turn crazy. There. That's a little easier to look at. That makes it better. The turn needs to know about its game that it's a part of. These don't have arrows for some reason. A turn always involves a player, so that makes sense. And then our game property, I also got to go back and look and see, do we actually, I think that represents where we, yeah, that's what we did, right? We were doing that over here. Yep, set game property to, that's where you end up. That's where you ended up. So we'll have the turn look up to game property. Okay, so far so good. And then we have... Do we have anything else? Cards, but we haven't done anything with cards, really. So let's take a quick pass. So I got cards. I got game property, player, property, and turn. Okay, so I think that's everything. So not crazy, but this whole game property thing can, you know, throw things off a little bit. So there's our really sophisticated data model. I'm sure we'll add some more things to this as we go. There's also the like kind of previous player turn. We can add some of that relationship in here. It's a little recursive, so it's kind of hard to represent on a data model without like just pointing at itself, but good enough for now. All right, so there's our data model. In case we forget how this whole thing works, I will make this public and put it in the in the README with today's updates. Okay, we are going to take a quick break at 5 o'clock, so I can get a drink and give some stuff away. Just saying. I got stickers. Give away some stickers. Hopefully you guys like stickers. If you're watching and you're in the chat and you like stickers, say, I like stickers, and I will send you a sticker. I'm going to go tell LinkedIn, and then everybody's going to want a sticker. So, you know, that's going to be a thing. All right, let's get back to work. What did we just do? We did jail. Go to jail. I think we're done. You know something we have to do? We have to stay in jail. Right? So what's the rule when you're in jail? You have to roll a double or pay $50. I think that's the rule. Or stay in jail for 3 turns. So that's going to be fun to figure out. That's some stuff we're going to have to do at the start. I think even before rolling, we're going to have to determine, are you in jail? So I am totally not ready to work on that right now. Let's pay some rent. Let's see if we can figure out how to pay rent in this thing. So let's... Just 1 second here. Make sure the world's not blowing up. Oh, seems like we're okay. All right, let's figure out how to pay rent. How do we do that? Paying rent is going to happen here. So we did property no owner, and then we have to do property is owner. And if we do property is owner, then sorry, something's happening on another tab here. There we go. So if the property is already owned and it's not me, we better check that. I think we might have those in our decisions already. Owner is current player. I don't have to do nothing. That's easy path, happy path stuff. Property is not owner, not current player. What are we going to do? Pay rent. Right. Should we tell the user that they're going to pay rent? Probably. Let's let them know. Oop. Very informational API names on these. You landed on property that is owned by player, you owe owner. Let's do this. We'll say this is owned by owner. You owe owner money. Okay. Sometimes I like using the screens as my requirements. Like, hey, I'm gonna go now do all the logic that I just showed you on the screen here. All right, so owner is not current player. So we have to, well, we know what we have the game property, right? We've loaded that already, haven't we? Where are you, game property? Load game property by position. So we know what we landed on. We know who the owner is, and we need to exchange money with the owner that equals the rent. There is not any logic in here that tells us if we have enough money to do this. But we're just gonna, happy path, people, happy path. All right, let's do an assignment. So we are going to pay rent. Now, what's the easiest condition for paying rent? You just land on it and do the face value. I think calculate rent might be, well, let's think about that. Can we calculate rent right on the game property? Game property has okay. We might be able to calculate. Yes, I think we can formula our way to the rent that is due, because we know the property, therefore we know the rent. We know the number of houses or hotels. We don't know the set. Do I own the set? That is probably something that we have to check for when we are landing and buying property, because I think we don't have anything that, well, the way we represent the set right now is just by the color of the property, which I think is fine. It's a unique value. It's a hex number. I don't know if I would use hex numbers all the time for unique identifiers or grouping identifiers, but hey, it's there. So when we buy property, we have to determine, do I own any other properties in that set? And if so, do something, right? We need some indicator to make life a little easier, I think, to determine if we own the set. That's probably a good, let's see, how do we do that? To determine if we own a set, the current we would have to check find all game properties whose properties set is the same as this property but not this property, and then if the other two properties are checked and you're buying it, then you own the set, and we should update those other three. Man, that sounds like a subflow to me, because that's a pretty crazy set of logic to determine. So for right now, we know we need some way to indicate that. Oh, we have it. Is monopolied. Is monopoly. Duh. That's the word I was looking for. You know, the game. As its name implies. Do you have the monopoly on those properties? So we're going to check that box on this and all the other related properties when we acquire something. So I want to try to do I want to try to do this as a subflow? I feel like we should try to do this as a subflow. We would check the box and do the monopoly check when we're finishing up our turn. Yes, that makes sense. We'll do that. So, I'm going to take a break, go get a drinky, and I'm going to make an enormous announcement on the internets that we're going to give some stuff away and see who shows up. And then we'll build a subflow to build the monopoly. And then we'll build a formula to calculate the rent, and then we'll pay rent. And hopefully paying rent will be easy at that point. So let's hit pause here, and we'll be right back. And we're back. And stickers. You can't do that on Salesforce. These are super cool. From Sticker Mule. They make the best stickers in the whole wide universe. If you join, not that I'm talking to you right now, but hey, I'm going to give these away. I hope I can give one sticker away today. We'll see. We'll see what LinkedIn has to say. Just say I like stickers, and you get a sticker. I like stickers. They're really nice. Really, really, really heavy. Turned out good. All right. I feel like I should have one on screen the whole time. Here somewhere. Maybe like here. Do this. Where it is like that. It'll do really good. Yeah, that's perfect. I can almost see what I'm doing. All right, sticker time. Back to work. Back to this, the monopoly logic, right? Is monopoly. Let's come back to paying rent, because we need to know everything we need to know about monopoly, a monopoly, to be able to pay rent. So let's try some subflow. I think this is going to work as a subflow. And what are we gonna do? We're gonna what should we call it? Let's call it evaluate property monopoly. We'll go with that. I'm gonna build auto launched flow. All right, if we're gonna evaluate, we need to know, what do we need to know? We need to know the, when is this gonna happen? What are our conditions for evaluating monopoly? We bought a property. Or we received a property, I guess more generically, right? We haven't even talked about trading yet, but let's talk about this generically. When I receive a property, either I buy it or it was traded to me or it was auctioned, I need to determine if I own the other properties so that I can tell the system that I've got the monopoly, or so that the system knows we have the monopoly on that. All right, so based on that, I need to know the property that we're evaluating, right? So we need an input parameter that I think is going to be the, let's call this the received property. And we'll say this is the received game property, I think actually is what we want. This is the game property that was bought or traded to evaluate against other game properties for a monopoly. Okay, that's going to come in. That's going to be a record. It's a game property, and our flow can pass that in over here. Okay, cool. And done. That's going to come in. We know the color of the property, so we can query out the other game properties that should be owned. So the other things we have to assume here is this game property has an owner assigned to it by this point, so that we can use that to query the other game properties, right? The game property already exists. We don't have to worry about the record being there or not. That's always fun to like go evaluate stuff that is saved in the database versus stuff that's not. This has already been saved, so I think that makes it a little easier. And we need matching owner and matching set and not this record. Because it's possible that we're evaluating this before we actually save it, so we just want to use the data that's on the record before we save it. So okay, we've got our incoming property. We're gonna get records. Let's see, load other game properties. I'll call that. Sure. So that's going to be a game property. Whose this is going to be part of the pickle, right? We can't traverse down to the color, so I think I'm going to make a formula that surfaces that on the game property to make it easier here. We'll go back and do that and then refresh the flow, but we also need to do owner equals this incoming games or properties owner. Whoops. Okay. Let's save this, and then we'll update our formula, and then we'll come back. Let's see, evaluate game property monopoly. Poppy. Not sponsored. Good stuff. I like the orange. It's got like 20 calories instead of 200. Supposedly it's good for your belly. I don't know. It tastes like actual soda. Yeah, that's cool. All right. Save that. Let's go to our game property, and just like we did property position as a formula, I'm going to do property color as a formula too, so we can query it a little more easily. Property color. That is text. That is on the properties color. Ooh. Update our permission set in a second. Don't really need that on the layout. It's more of a system field. Let's open that up. Forceopoly admin. That is on the game property object. We need to give access to the property color field. There we go. Okay. Back to the flow. So now we have the field that we're looking for. So property color equals the received. I could do it here, right? That's right. Salesforce, make this field work like make this work like this with the click-through paths, please. Thank you. Love, Tom. see. I'm going to start that over again. I wish you could pick up where you left off when you're trying to populate these two. So the property, color, okay. So, and let's, well, no. We want to evaluate, because we don't know if we've saved. We don't know if the received game property has actually been saved to the database at this point. So let's exclude does not equal. It has been saved. It is a record in the database, but the owner may have changed and just not been saved yet. So we're going to exclude this one. I was going to just say, well, just query this out, and if the owner is all three of them, then we can say, okay, yeah, you've got it. But it's possible that the record in question that's coming in hasn't been saved. So let's not do that. Okay, so I've got two records here. We want to check all records. We literally want to see if we get two back, because that would mean the owner is the same person as the one that's coming in, and it's part of the same property. So we want to basically test that. And we can do that by testing the length of a collection. How do we do that? Yes, how indeed. Dear Google. Salesforce flow collection size. Size of collection. Oh, wait. This is an idea. This is not what we want. Nope. Do not want that. Get size of collection and flow. Stack Exchange probably knows the answer. It's cleverly hidden in the section titled Update Active Stages and New Assignments. You can use an assignment formula to determine the size of your collection. Look at that. Today I learned. That is a thing. Thank you, Stack Exchange button. You guys ever see these? I love these. I haven't actually wired it up yet, but this was an April Fool's Day joke that a company turned into a tiny keyboard that you're supposed to be able to map the buttons here to. This one goes to Stack Exchange, this one is a copy button, and this is a paste button. Which, as engineers and Salesforce people, we know that we get all of our answers from Stack Exchange. So that's a cool thing. I gotta buy dumb stuff. What can I say? All right, well, let's see if this works. We might have to put this into a formula. I'm curious if it will be happy in a decision. So let's say 2 results. That's what we're really looking for. Ideally, yes. 2 results, yes. So, what was that? Load other game properties. Size? Is it going to like this? No. Doesn't exist in this flow. Really? You can use an assignment formula to determine the size of your collection. And from there, you can use that. Oh, I see. We're doing it wrong. We need to make an assignment first. Okay. Never mind that. Load property. Get record count. Let's make a new variable called record count number. No decimals, thank you. Equals count of this. Maybe I don't even need the size thing, right? Maybe that just works. Let's find out. Okay. So then, if this equals 2, then we are happy. And we will mark the monopoly on everything. So let's see, get record count. Now do our decision. 2 records, question mark, whoops. There we go. 2 records, yes. I am having trouble with keyboard. 2 records, yes. Okay. 2 records, yes. And let's see. Received game. We are evaluating record count equals 2. If it's not 2, we do nothing. If it is 2, so we got to make a decision here, right? Because we are going to, we need to check the 2 records here to set them as true, or set as monopoly as true, and we need to set that field on the outgoing record, which I feel like it would feel weird to save these two records on the outside and then save the incoming record separately. But it might get saved anyway because it's going to go back out of the subflow, so it's kind of returned as the return parameter. So I think I'm going to save everything in here, and then whatever happens elsewhere, we may have to optimize. But it feels like I want to just be able to say, "Yo, subflow, here's a thing, here's a property. This is the owner. Tell me if it's part of a monopoly, and if it is, mark it as such." Let's go with that for now. And let me just look over here and make sure nothing's blowing up in the world. It is not. Good. Okay. So we're gonna, if we have 2 records, then we're going to update those records. Mark or just check is monopoly. I want to so this is technically doing a query again, if which is interesting. I wonder, could we do this all in one shot? No, because I need to count. I need to determine if we have 2. I'd like to do this way so I don't have to loop over them. But I don't know if there's can I do an assignment I have to loop it. That update function is nice because you can query out a bunch of stuff and say, yo, update this field, and it will go back and do it. That's kind of what I need to do here, but I can't do that easily. So I'm going to have to do a little loop and and check the box. That's fine. I like to avoid loops whenever I can because it just feels like a lot of stuff in the loop, but that's fine. All right, let's build us a loop. Let's do records. Check is monopoly. Okay. Then we can update those. We could make this a little cleaner. We could add. Yeah, we'll make this a little bit cleaner because we need to check that box for the other one as well. So so we have 2 records. Let's add the 3rd record to the collection. Right, so we're going to take load others, add the received game property, right? So now I've got a collection of 3, so I can make this a little less painful when I have to save it. We're looping through, we're checking everything that is monopoly, and we will update the records. Okay, so this receives, let's recap. This receives the game property, evaluates if is it the owner is the same as the one that's it goes and gets it goes and gets the other properties, and this should work for 2 Broadway and Park Place, and the other one, whatever that was, is that's only 2 properties. So that's okay. We should do this. We should do add 3rd record up. We're going to copy this. We should do this up here, I think. Does it matter? Is that going to help? Because we still need to count. We still need to determine. We can do a little bit more logic. I think we're going to have to evaluate, is the number 2 for everything else, or is it 1 for this or that? So a little bit more logic. That's okay. Let's do this. So this is not really 2 records. This is now like correct record count. We'll call it that. Okay. So correct record count is going to be, it's yes if, let's do some complex logic here. If the record count is 2 or the record count is 1 and the received game property color equals something. This is not right, but we'll look that up. It's 1 or 2 and 3 or received game property color equals the other one. So let's see. If it's 2 or it's 1 and it's 3 or 4. So your record count is 2 or your record count is 1 and your property color is this or that. And I got to go find the this or that's. I think that works. Let's go see. So which one's which? Mediterranean and Baltic, they're a twofer. And their color is this. I got some really great ideas to do really dumb stuff with colors in Salesforce, and maybe we'll do a little bit of that another time. So that is Baltic and Mediterranean, and then the other one is Boardwalk and Park Place. Those are the only, everything else is 3. Here we go. This or that and that or that. Okay. Yeah. I think that works. Okay. Correct decision count. Yes. Add incoming record. We'll make that make a little bit more sense. Okay. Check is monopoly on all of them. Update the records. And then I think we got it. A little cleaner than adding this stuff into our and then this can run, I think, any time, right? We can just pass in any property and it will. Do we need to do we need to uncheck it? We probably could uncheck it from here also. That probably makes sense because it's not a monopoly then. Okay, yeah, let's do that. So I think I want to add, I think I do want to add the incoming record up here. It's going to throw our numbers off, our counts off a little bit, but we can fix that. So the correct record count now would be, the record count normally is 3, or it's 2, and it's that. If it's the correct record count, and we could probably do this in the loop, I think. That way we don't have to do 2 loops. We can actually just run this all in the same loop. Let's see, does that make sense? Yeah, how's that gonna work? Yeah, I think so. I think we can just let's move this logic into our loop. Let's not do that. Let's copy our loop. It's either a check or an uncheck, right? Well, no. Let's copy this. We want to put this decision in here. Right? And then we want to move... I know this copy stuff is crazy. I wish you could just move these. Paste that there. Get rid of this one. And we can get rid of... Let's keep the yes path. There we go. So loop the records. Do we have the correct count? Yes. Evaluate that each time. If we don't have the correct count, I'm going to copy this and reuse it here. We'll uncheck. Uncheck is monopoly. And we'll set this to false. Okay, so now that's a little more robust. It doesn't just check for yes or no. It also checks for, it'll uncheck it for us also. So I think that works. Let's activate this. And then let's go back over to our take turn flow. So this is maybe where the outcome is handy, the by property, because then we can determine what to do at the end. So if I've bought property, I want to evaluate that that subflow and determine if anything should be done. Yeah, okay. So we'll go back over here. So we have our buy property. That only, it might be another condition too, but update the turn. Insert the player's next turn. I think we could have a condition down here that says if our outcome is by property, then run that thing. Right? Say turn outcome. Okay, outcome is by property. Let's run our subflow. Eval monopoly. And we're going to pass in our game property. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Instead of having, I feel like we should do a lot more of that. Add more subflows. We'll make this a lot cleaner. Add more subflows where it's worth it, because we don't need every little thing in here as a subflow, but I think that one does. That one is handy. All right, let's save that. Okay. We got to figure out this. All right, so now that we have that, we can go back over to our game property and figure out the rent, right? Yeah, let's calculate the rent now. Okay, so the rent, if what are the conditions? If it's a monopoly, the rent is double. If it's houses, well, let's go down. We'll go downstream, right? Hotel, right? So if need to get the other fields back up here so we can check it. If hotel equals equals 1, then it is the property rent hotel, right? Otherwise, if it is if houses is greater than 0, then it is actually it's not a multiple. No, we got to test each one. A little bit nasty, but okay. If houses equals 4, I can't remember the name of the field, but I'm going to copy this down. Property rent house is 4. Rent house 4. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Rent house 4. 2, 1. Okay. 4, 3, 2, 1. If it's not that, then if it is monopoly is true, then it is property rent doubled. Otherwise, it is just the property rent. And now we can play the fun. Let's see, we're closing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did I get that right? Drum roll. Nope. 6. Is that right? Let's see. Open, close, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Okay. There we go. It's a pretty big formula field, but makes sense. Does the job. Okay. And let's put that on the page layout. And then we got to update our permission set again. There we go. Okay. All right. There's that. So now that makes life a little easier for paying the rent. Let's see. Let's refresh this so we get our field in here. Okay. We are paying rent here. So, again, happy path. I think we are, let's see. The game property knows about the property. Property knows about the game property knows about the rent by way of everything else that we just did. So I want to subtract money from the current player, and I want to give that money to the owner. And I think in order to do that, I have to query out the owner. I think we can do that here. I think this is the only place where we have to worry about that. Is there any other time when we're giving money to? I think pay rent could be another subflow by the same token, right? I'm going to pass in the player that landed on the property, and the property that they landed on, and do the transaction. Yeah, let's do that. I'm getting subflow happy people, which is fine because I think those make sense. All right, let's do a new flow. What's coming in? The player and the property. The game property. So we're going to pass these two in. So we have those. So the game property knows about its owner, but I think I want to load the owner separately so we can update that value. And do I know the player? I think I know the player. At this point, yes. Where are you? Oh, right. We initted the player record and money. So we have that, and then we should be saving that. We update the player somewhere. I don't know if we do. We give the player some money here in Go. We take some money from the player here. Update turn. We don't update the player currently, so we probably should do that. So we'll pass in the player. We'll know their money, and then we can update the player. I feel like we can update the owner and the player in the subflow. Yeah. Okay, so let's load the owner. So the owner is a player, and that's the game property. Nope. Oh, where the ID equals game property owner. I could not remember how I was going to get there. That's how we're going to get there. Okay. Only the first record. Let's choose our fields. Let's get money here. So by doing this, I'm impacting the record as minimally as possible, which we should be doing that. We shouldn't be hauling the entire record in and out if we don't need to. All right, so we have our owner, and then we're going to do some assignments here. So we're going to make payment, or just call it pay. All right, so the player money we subtract by the game property's rent, and then the owner money we add by the game property's rent. And then we can update the owner. I guess we could make this a little bit more efficient. Let's add a player collection, because we'll save them both. Right. Okay, we'll add to the collection both of those. Okay, and then we'll update both of them. What do we call that? Yeah, update players. So now they both, one lost money, one got money, and the player collection knows about both of those. So then we save. Okay. And this is called pay rent. And there we go. Activate that one. Let's go back to take turn, and we'll drop that in. Digging the subflows here by the end of the take turn, starting to get nasty. So if we can work some of this stuff in, that is not a bad thing. All right. Let's see. This was owner is not, so we're going to pay rent here. Game property is here, and the player is here. There we go. All right. Let's pull this into our pull this back into VS Code so we don't lose anything. There we go. We got our updated flows. So we're paying rent now. All right. So if we take one step back and go take a look at create new game, I want to remember how we're doing this. We use this to insert a game record, load up the slots. These are all of our possible players. Choose how many players we have. Do our loop to fill those slots. Pick users for each one. Insert those players. Insert create game properties. Get the first player. Because when we insert our players, we give them the sequence. So it feels like we could just say, well, we could do our random. That might be interesting. We might be able to introduce the random function here to set the sequence, because it could be any number. It doesn't matter. It could be 1 to 1,000,000. But we could roll for that. So that's something to consider for later. We know that we insert our players, we get our first player, we create our first turn. So we base that off of the sequence. Now, at the end of a turn, we have to figure out who's our next player. We know the sequence of our current player, and we want... Let's see. This is kind of like position, right? Because I could just say, oh, well, go get me the player whose sequence is larger than my sequence, if there is one. Or let's see. The sequence is larger. Or maybe we have to do a two-step there, right? So I query to see if it's larger. If I don't get a result, then I query for the first, and then that's my next player. So I think we could use that here, another subflow, right? So get next player would let us do that. So yeah, we're going to build that. I think we just want the current sequence, right? We'll just pass that in. So that'll be a number that's available for input, and then we're going to have we're going to return a player. Okay, there we go. Man, it's almost 6 o'clock already. All right, well, I think we can wrap this one up pretty quick. So we're passing in the sequence. So if I'm playing with 4 people and my sequence is 1, then I want to query the next highest. So let's start there. So we are going to get records. Next player query 1, right? We're looking for players. Oh, we need the game. I think we just need the current player, right? We don't want the current sequence. We can get the, yeah. And if the current player is null, then we could test for that, right? Because we could use this at the start of our query also. This record player. Current player is available for input. Let's get rid of current sequence because we don't want that. So still want to query out, right? So get records. Get next player 1. Right, this is going to search for players where sequence is greater than the current player sequence. We'll sort by sequence. Only want the first record. Okay, and then found. Oh wait, decision, not assignment. So found. If we found it, we found it. By definition, finding it is next player is not null. Okay. So if we found it, then we can just return. We'll set our next player 1. Next player equals that player. So that's our output parameter. If we didn't find it, we're going to query again. Let's get records. So get next player 2. And, oh, we need to insert the game in here. That's kind of important. We'll update that in a second. So this is just going to be game equals the current player game and the sequence. Actually, no, we don't even need that second one. This is our fallback, so if we don't find anybody, we're just going to pick the person with the lowest sequence. Just the first record. And there we go. And then we'll set. If we don't have a player at this point, we have a problem because we didn't set up our game right. So set next player 2. Terrible naming convention, but that's okay. This equals get next player 2. Okay, cool. And all right, let's walk this through. So I've got my current player coming in. I want to find the next player. I need to include the game in this filter. Okay, I'm going to sort that. So I want the, well, let's say greater than, or I guess it's possible that we could, with the way we're going to do the sequencing, we could have the same value. So I want it greater than or equal, and the ID, wait, and it's not the current player, right? The ID does not equal the current player ID. Right. if you're player of one, then I suppose you're, well, we found you no matter what. The only time this might be an issue is when the current player is null. Does that happen? That can happen. Yeah. Because I want to use this everywhere. So even at when I start game, I want to say, all right, well, get the next player. I'm going to pass in a null current player. So we probably should do that null check here. Because if it's null, we actually we want to do this. We want to do this outcome. So we can, right? Because we're not testing against player in that case. Yeah. So let's do this decision. So current player null. Right, so if that is true, oops. If he's null, if the current player is null, then we need to skip to here. Right, if it's null, we don't want to evaluate because we need the values from the current player to do anything with. So we'll skip over that and walk it through. Incoming current player. Is it null? Nope. Go find the next player. So use the sequence of this player to find someone greater than or equal to this current one, but is not the same one. This will fall down if we had 4 people that all had the same sequence. It would be great if we could sort by multiple fields, because then we could at least do like, well, I think we just have to rig up our stuff so that the sequence is unique to each player in the game. That would solve for this. I think we can do that. It's going to take a little. We probably need yet another subflow to figure out the sequence for the sequencing for our players, but that will protect this from getting the wrong value. So yeah, let's that is done. Get next player found. If we find it, then the next player, we find it by definition, the next player is not null. It means we found a record. Set the next player to 1. That's the output parameter. If we don't find it, try to search again. Our fallback is to just get the first player. I think that works. Let's get next player. Activate that. I'm going to pop this in our other take turn flow. Actually, I'm going to go back over here and go to create new game. We'll use it here, and then we'll use it at the bottom of our create new flow, or take turn. What am I trying to say? All right. Insert player. Get first player. Let's do it here instead. We just need to set. We need to set a variable for. So we'll probably need to swap in this. Let's see. Create first turn. Yeah, we'll need to swap the player out here. Okay. Insert game properties. Get first player. Let's do this. Let's grab our subflow. Our get next player subflow. And we will get next player. The current player. Can I pass null? I think I can. Let's. I think it's gonna take null here. And then the output. Well, actually, we'll just have next player from the flow. So we can we'll replace this because this player is now from get next player. Oh, that should be .id. There we go. Cool. The game and the player. And then we can get rid of this step. Cool. Refactoring. Cool. Reusing stuff. Cool. We're going to save this as a new version. Let's see. E2 refactored get next player. Or get to subflow. Okay, we'll reactivate that one. We'll test that one in a second. Meanwhile, over here in Take Turn land, we will way at the bottom, we figure out our next player. I think we can do that right here, right? Let's call our subflow. Oh, whoops! We gotta refresh this because I think we have it. I'm gonna drop this subflow in, and then we're gonna probably wrap it up for today because I'm hungry. And we'll come back Thursday and do some more. So we did pay rent today, so that's cool. We have to test that. We got some subflow mojo happening here, which is good because things are getting we're getting a little hairy, and I still can't type. There we go. So we'll pass in our current player, which is here. So we need to check that we're actually storing the sequence on this player, that player record. So when we create that, we initialize that here. So I think we need to say player sequence equals load turn player sequence. Okay. Back down here, we get our next player, and then we can insert the next player's turn. So the player here equals the get next player ID. Now, we probably, I'm not going to get into this right now, but we probably need to we need to set the previous player turn for that next player so that we can continue to string those along. So we'll probably have to query that out, and that will be a wonderful thing to do. JJVW42, you're getting a sticker. I have no idea how I'm going to send this to you because I can't push it into the thing, but if you can send an email to, I'm going to type it. Oh, he works with me. All right, cool. I'm bringing him to the office. Wonderful. Whew, I thought we were gonna have to do like mail for a minute. Like, wow, that was gonna be complicated. But yeah, I know this guy. I work with this guy, and he's gonna get a sticker. And if you come to, you can't do that on Salesforce Thursday, you too can get a sticker because I love stickers. That's the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming. It's interesting. I'm here at the end. It's 6 o'clock Eastern, and I think I've had more viewers now, right here at the end, than throughout the rest of the rest of the show. So I'm experimenting with some new times. We're doing Tuesday, Thursday, 4 to 6, right now. Maybe we'll try like a 5 to 7 slot sometime. See if we can catch some more. Maybe there's some West Coasters that are interested in hanging out. So no matter what, thanks for partying today. Let me save my stuff before I get sad and lose something. And I feel like we made some progress. We got some subflow action going. We're getting some reuse of our code. We're making take turn a little less crazy, and hopefully we'll actually get to run. We'll get to run a game here at some point. So, get out of here. Thanks everybody. Have a good night.